What's up? What's up? What's up? How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? It's been a minute since I've done one of these. I feel like I say that every single time. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. But yo, I'm kind of like we're nearing the end of the year, and I'm just feeling just ready to go all in 2025. I feel like up until this moment, my first time publishing an episode was in 2020 podcast, and since then I've just been kind of in this whole journey of growth, right? It's led me to working in this field. It's led me to just discovering more about myself, and I'm excited about this next year. It feels like it's time. It's really time to reach for all of the stars and everything to be reaching for. And this live stream is kind of part of that. It's this whole topic conversation about growth and kind of going for what's next. I don't know about all of y'all, but I have certain goals of my own in my own career. And I know it's about that time where we start to reflect on everything that's happened this past year and really look at what we want for this next year. So I know all of y'all are having these conversations. I'm having them as well. And hopefully this live will help with that. Oh, we already got some people in here. What's up, Stephanie Cole? She's bringing her greetings from Harlem, NYC. I appreciate that you always rep Harlem when you are on a live and the audio events, your own posts. Like, yeah, like New York should be proud of you. You represent strong, you represent strong. Y'all got a good ambassador. Yes, let's go. What's up, Rena? How's it going? Yes, excited for y'all to be on here. Yeah, everyone, we're broadcasting live to LinkedIn and YouTube. If you're catching this live right now, I want you to type in that you're in the live squad. If you're catching the replay, don't be afraid. Like, comment in. We're still going to engage with you. You're basically a part of the replay squad. Um, this conversation, we're talking about two kind of timely headlines. So really, really big updates, big news that's been happening in this industry and this leadership place. Two major global companies have lost their CEO. One, basically, it's almost looks like a born ultimatum type of unalive. And the other one, the CEO was faced with the ultimatum, either retire or get fired. So we're going to be diving into all of that. Paula, talk to you with P. What's going on? Appreciate you popping in. Oh, we got people from Brazil, live from Brazil. What's going on? Barbados. Oh, we international, y'all. We're international, which is fitting because this whole conversation is about leadership, and some of the two stories we're talking about are some global leaders, things that are companies that are affecting people all around the world. Man, appreciate y'all for joining in. Keep commenting on. You are part of this conversation. I'll be talking with my guest about everything, but honestly want to hear from y'all as well. So yeah, let's get into this, y'all. Let's get into this. So today we're talking about becoming a leader and not missing out on those moments, right? There's times in all of our past and our journeys where it's like we kind of the opportunity appears and we want to go for it, right? You know, the Eminem song. As I was putting this together, I kept thinking about that song. You only get one shot, don't miss. I don't really believe you only get one shot, but there are these moments that happen that occur that we don't always plan for, right? And it's like, are you actually ready to take advantage of it? That's some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So United Healthcare CEO was unalived and in his way to an investor meeting in the streets of New York. It's caused this whole like whirlwind of stories and chaos as they're searching for the suspect, and also just more reports are coming out around like the things that he had done during his time at United Healthcare, which is like creating all of these different discussions, and it's making me feel like, okay, maybe this moment will create the type of spark that's needed to bring about a change with new leadership. The other story is about Intel. Comment below if you are familiar with Intel, know what Intel does. Intel's been around forever. I knew what Intel was when I was like in first grade. And he let go of their CEO because he wasn't, doing what needed to be done. So all of these moments are like, okay, there's now a gap, right? Everyone who's working at these companies are probably asking like, who's next? What's going to happen to me? Yada yada yada. So this is just I just can't imagine what's going on at these companies. So we're going to talk about these, but really dig into what leadership is. And I can't have a leadership conversation by myself. Like I can, but it's like I like to have conversations with people, right? So I asked someone, who's a dear friend of mine, who's been collaborating me or supporting me for a while, and it's helped with my own journey to becoming a leader, right? Our guest today is Steve Worthy. He's had 30 years of retail leadership experience. He's navigated the highs and lows of the industry and constant evolution, helping people to reach new heights and also leading teams throughout these different types of chaotic environments. He's a founder of Worthy Retail Global and The Campus, and he's created the industry leading platforms dedicated to leadership development, fostering growth for retail executives and their teams. Y'all, give it up, give it up, give it up for the one and only Steve Worthy.
What's going on,
What's
boy?
going on, man?
Oh,
How you doing?
I get the applause.
You get the applause,
I
man. You
get the
gotta get
applause,
the
man.
applause.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm stoked. I'm stoked. I'm excited to be here, man. As always with you, having
Man,
these conversations.
appreciate
It's
you
gonna be good.
joining.
It's gonna be
Yes,
good.
yes. Oh man. Oh, and I'm not the only one excited, y'all. Shout
Who
out to
else
Chris
is
Ward
excited?
Jr. Chris Ward Jr.
Chris,
says Steve Worthy is amazing.
we can stop right there. We can stop. I'm done.
It's over.
Live
You
stream
won.
is over.
You
Live
won.
stream is
Yeah.
over.
Thanks y'all for tuning in. But
Thanks,
yeah,
Chris. Thanks, Chris.
man. So Steve, I want
Mm,
to just get right into it. We'll talk a little bit more about all the things you do a little later
yeah,
on, but let's just start with, United Healthcare. They're going through a crazy time right now, right?
yeah, yeah.
Man, so like I feel like moments like these is I think there's a lot of like what's next, what's happening. You know, oftentimes you plan for like CEOs leaving. Like I'm sure Intel has some type of a plan, but this is like, well, first shout out to all the families affected by this. Regardless of how you feel about the company, it's
Hmm.
never want to see something like that happening. But what do you think is going on right now throughout the minds of everyone over at United Healthcare?
Yeah, chaos. If I'm very honest, right? I think in these situations, these are extremely unexpected, circumstances. These are situations that, yes, are there game plans in place, within big companies like this? There's, key man insurance, key man strategy, key person strategy. If you lose a top executive, what do you do? So I'm quite sure they're breaking open their little, sort of decoder rings and trying to figure those things out. It's sad. It's sad he had to lose his life, but I know, in the course of what's transpired, the company is probably just going through some turmoil. They're trying to really figure out, what's next, who's next. What do you need to do? I've been through certain scenarios with different companies, when chaos and unexpected opportunity situations happen, and you're looking for leadership. You're looking for
Mm,
leadership, from the company. You're looking, to really humanize, the situation, right? And not just the person, of course, who's lost their life, but you know, humanize the overall situation, and not make it a, profit or loss situation. But how do you humanize, the process, and making sure everybody's in their mindset is taken into consideration.
mm. So this really is a moment where it's like for people to step up, but also for the people already in leadership to really step up and make sure everyone's getting taken care of.
Well, you got to take care of people first. We got to take care of the people first. So, and transparency is key. Um, I was with Target, and this is not, there wasn't any loss of life, but I think it was 2010, 2011, and we had this massive credit card breach. I don't know if anybody remembers that. And I was probably about 3 or 4 years, like, fresh out of grad school, and one of the classes that we took in grad school was crisis management, and there is literally a playbook that most organizations have. And part of that playbook, that we executed, I think flawlessly, Target did, was just brutal, transparency. Everything
Mm,
we spoke about. This is 2010 and 11. This is Social media was there, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. And so our CEO was just brutally honest with everything. The number of breaches, who did it, what's going to happen, where are we now, right? And I think one of the lessons that he learned was from. So I'm dating myself, but those of us who remember the Tylenol, situation,
mm,
recall. It was a massive Tylenol recall. I think I want to say like the early 2000s, and and they did the same thing. They had, just brutal transparency, humanized the situation, and I think those are some of the things that they're trying to make sure that they do right now.
mm. Man, there's a comment here from Rena. Crisis management today should be required reading.
Oh, yeah. 100%, 100%. And because it's gonna happen. So I'm going to tell another story, man. You know what?
Let's go with the
I got
story.
ton of
Story
stories.
time
I
with
got ton of
Steve, y'all.
stories.
Story time
Story
with
time with
Steve.
Steve. So I was a DM, district manager in Baltimore at the time, and what my boss and I were visiting stores. We went into this one store. It was in the city of Baltimore, and we walked into the store, and the team members were very visibly like shaken. They're like, "Steve, Mr. A lot of them call him Steve or Mr. Steve. We got something's going on. We want to show you something." And they showed me on social media that there was going to be a riot because there was the death of Freddie Gray, in the city of Baltimore, about
Mm,
at the hands of the police. And so, I said, "Okay, what's going on?" Long story short, we actually had to shut that store down. We had to close the store, not, shut it down. We had to close it for that day on the feelings, if you will, of the team. And we did it, and thank God we did, because at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the city went bananas, and they started rioting and, broke into the mall right next door and things like that. And the reason I say that, I wanna use this as an example, is because one of the first things that we did was listen to our team. Myself, my boss, my the person I was leading, we listened to the team. We heard their concerns. We thought we wondered what was going on in their world, um, and made sure that they were taken care of. Here's the crazy part, Walt. The very
mm,
next day after that riot, we had 26 team members show up for work that day, and we had to send them home because the circumstances surrounding what was taking place in the city was still too hot. So we actually sent them home. But to have 26 people come in the day after a riot to your company, to your store, right, was just, I mean, I was crying. Ellie, who was the store manager, she was crying. Like, we were just like really emotionally touched that people were doing this, but we had to send them home. It's a
man.
company, we took care of them and things like that. But those are just some of the things. So you have to humanize, the situation, and you have to make sure you do what's right for the people first.
Man, that's powerful right there. The people first. Everyone at United Healthcare who might be watching this, or share it with somebody over there, just as a constant reminder, support, put the people first. The people gonna is what's gonna really lead everyone through it. I really
Yeah.
love that because I think that we put a lot of importance on people who have that CEO title, people in the
Mhm,
VP, the
mhm.
C suite. And I mean, the they got important jobs, they really do,
They
but
do.
I think about all the people on the front lines, everything, who are face to face with the customers. I can't even imagine the type of conversations that are being happening right now. I mean, just for United Healthcare alone, someone before in the comments was saying that Luigi hats are selling out on Amazon right now. Like it's just a wild time, right? And I think just like making sure everyone is taken care of, like that's really what's going to take everyone to the next level.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so question for you. What are some like they're about to enter into like finding their replacement, right? And I
Mhm,
think that
mhm.
there's a lot of ways that could go wrong. There's a huge risk with that. What are some common mistakes that you've seen that leaders make during these times of transitions?
Yeah, I think, when when you when they are in these situations, dare I say, I want to talk about the company first, right? And then I'll talk about, some of the leaders. What I've seen companies get wrong is to not have, and I'm quite sure that these guys do, is to not have a solid succession plan, right? And I want to just talk to even entrepreneurs that are out there, not right now, right? I think I always say, like, success is in your succession plan. Like, who are you bringing on board? Like, who's next up to bat? Where do you what strategies and what mindsets do you have in place? What does that person look like? What are the qualifications and all these different things? So companies who have done this the best have a really solid succession plan in place. And I'm quite sure United Healthcare has something already in place. I think, you know, succession planning has to be intentional too, right?
Mm,
So whoever was up next, they were already tapped on the shoulder probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and knowing that this CEO probably only had about maybe 4 or 5 years left in his tenure, and then the next person is up. That's succession planning has to be intentional, right? You when you see legacy leaders in organizations, those are the ones that are really not doing too well. The leaders that don't want to go, right? The leaders that just kind of stay, but you have to make sure you have solid succession planning in place. So I think that's one of the main things that actually organizations need to do. From a team standpoint, I think part of it is understanding where you stand right now within the organization. This is
Mm,
the end of the year. You mentioned earlier that everybody's taking stock, right? We just did a year end reset in our community, and one of the things that we started off doing was talking about all your wins for the year. And the interesting part about that process was that before people got to their wins, I'm not just going to say win, but their wins of the year, a lot of them started off talking about a challenge that they faced that they
mm,
actually had to overcome. And I just thought it was interesting that people will start out talking about a challenge, and then they moved into the abundance of wins that they had because they were able to conquer that one challenge. It wasn't challenges. It's typically
mm.
one challenge that you have to that will unlock a lot more for you. So I think right now you have to start to think about what are those things, or what's that one thing that's unlock and needs to be an unlock for you in your position, right? I'm not saying that you're going to immediately jump up to be CEO, but I call it make a move season. At the beginning of the year, when people start to make a move up, on, or out of the organization.
Mm.
And so how are you positioning yourself, so that you can be a person that's going to either make a move up, on, or out? How do you make sure that you're positioning yourself?
Up on or out. I like that. That's catchy. That's
Yeah.
catchy. Man. I want to take a quick pause, check out who's in the chat.
Yeah.
A lot of comments. I think you've a lot of people are resonating with this, man. Okay. Some of y'all just hanging out, talking to each other. I like that. I love that. That's community right there. Rena J, yeah, y'all definitely need to catch up. Stephanie, she says she remembered the Freddie Gray situation.
Mhm,
Very
mhm.
intense. It's interesting, like moments like that just affect everybody in so many different ways. And it's like kind of I feel like a lot of the times we have to kind of shut off part of what we're feeling to show up and work. And someone actually, I remember when I was onboarding into a new role, they mentioned something like, how do you deal with, like, work life balance? I was like, oh, I'm good at separating. I was like, well, I'm gonna pause you right there, because what affects you at home affects you in the workplace, and that's
100%.
okay. That's okay. And I was
100%.
love to share that. Yeah.
100%.
Chris Ward Jr., your active listening saved lives and build trust with your team.
Mhm,
Let's go,
mhm,
Steve. Yup,
mhm.
yup. Got Renee Linda. Oh, we got people from
Renee,
Seattle.
hold up, man.
Renee.
Wagwan, Renee.
Appreciate you popping in. I feel like I missed a few things. I saw someone was in here from Seattle. I'm gonna get back to. I'm gonna get back to you. Oh, you know what? Another one. Spot on, Steve. This is from Stephanie Cole. Succession plan is like having a will on file, but a
Mhm.
business scenario. When the time comes, there's a roadmap to get through the grieving process. It's invaluable for families. So why not business as well, man? It's interesting with the family things. Oftentimes those will conversations are kind of tough to have, but
Mhm.
I think it's important because it's like, I mean, do you want to just be scrambling, trying to put together, a fish fry, or do you want to actually have a plan in place where everyone can move efficiently and everyone can be supported?
Mhm.
Um, so let's move on to the next global
Yeah. Mm.
company who's lost a CEO. This one is Intel. So this one's really interesting, right? Because this was an intentional choice for
Yeah.
the board. The
Mhm,
board basically
mhm.
gave the CEO, Pat Gelsinger, two options. You could retire or you
Mm,
could get fired. The choice is
mm.
yours, whichever one works best for you.
Yeah.
Now, he was brought on to Intel. He actually had worked there for quite a long time. He had had some success there. He moved on to another company, VMware, but he came back in 2021 because Intel, they basically had a problem, right? there's a lot of new things happening in the from the pandemic. A lot of sales were down, and also they had new competition and this
Yeah. Yeah.
introduction of AI. They set out to compete with Samsung. They set out to compete with Nvidia, both in chip manufacturing and AI manufacturing. And it didn't really go so well. You know, the stock it saw reports that it lost more than 60% during
Mhm.
his tenure. You know, he had
Mhm.
an ambitious 4-year turnaround plan to compete with Samsung in chip manufacturing, failed to build an effective AI chip challenger. And y'all, I asked before, like if y'all were familiar with Intel, and a lot of y'all were, but one thing in particular I remember noticing is I actually am now a Mac user across the board. I had an iPhone for a minute, but now I
Yeah.
have you know, the Mac, and the first one I had an Intel chip in it.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
Apple
Yeah.
came out with their own chip, and I'm like, "Oh, man,
Mhm.
times are changing." I think just as things, become more accessible, like, technology is advancing at such a rapid rate, it's like, if you can't catch up, you're going to get left behind. Right now, NVIDIA's I think they're like a $3 trillion company
Yeah. Yeah.
powering all these GPTs that everyone's using.
Oh,
Man, big moment. So
yeah.
Steve, you know, I could keep talking about it, but you are the the leadership coach, man.
Oh,
Just start off generally, like what can leaders from just all levels learn from this situation right here?
man.
Intel, like telling Pat Gelsinger you got to go.
Yeah. You um man, there's so many things. I'm trying to figure out which way I want to start. I'll start with Henry Ford, right? The Model T. I know
Mm,
I'm going way back, way back, way back. But Henry Ford, of course, created the Model T car, and they were all black. All the cars were black and different things like that. And as people started to adopt, this means of transportation even more, just like any other human being, right? We wanted different options. We wanted another option, and so they said, "Hey, we want a different, color Model T." He said, "You can have any color you want as long as it's black." And he didn't change. He didn't pivot for the longest until guess what?
mm,
Competition, right?
mm,
The Toyotas of the world, right? Some of the German manufacturers of the world started to enter into the market. And when, before long, it was too late, right? He had lost so much, share and so much sort of brand equity that he had previously established because of hubris. And I think part of this situation that we're seeing is either it's hubris, but it's also you have to differentiate or die, right? In today's world. And you have to be able to see what's coming and pivot. I think a large part is I started to was looking at this story a while ago. Their plan, their turnaround plan wasn't as robust as it needed to be. um,
mhm,
they didn't take the necessary risks that a lot of other companies, were taking, and they didn't really bet on themselves. I also think that to your point around, I don't. This is just my own perspective. I don't think they ever recovered from the switch from like Apple not using their products anymore. I don't believe that they ever pivoted properly from that. Now, and they saw that coming for years. Right? You saw that coming for years. It's not like one day Apple comes up and says, "Hey, you know what?" Because man, there's so much insider knowledge, insider training, corporate espionage that takes place that we don't even know, right? There are
mm,
plants inside of each and every company, right? Apple plants inside of Intel, Intel plants inside of Apple, Nvidia plants inside of Intel, and vice versa, right? There's so many games of chess that are being played that we don't see. And so you can't cry ignorance. You can't, not in today's world, not in today's knowledge highway. You just can't. So I think part of it is hubris. I think part of it is that as a leader, you have to be able to. I always talk to my team is that you have to change before it's necessary, right? And it's hard. Change is hard in and of itself, but it's even harder when you feel like your things are going well. right? You think that things are on the uptick, right? Your things are flying, and you're like, I don't need to change. I'm good to go. I can just continue to do this. But I got to tell you, there's going to be a point in time when you start to plateau, right? And it's insidious, right? It's slow, right? The market starts to shift. Your team starts to shift. Your leader, you get a new leader who doesn't like your direction. Guess what? That slows that trajectory, and that will halt and start to plateau your leadership. And so you have to adapt. You have to change, before it's necessary. And that's where you need a community. I know we'll talk about that here, down the line, but that's where you need a community, you need a coach, you need people to actually help you see those gaps in your current leadership to help you change and move forward.
Man, yo, you be dropping quotables after quotables. You can Oh man, first of all, I wasn't like aware of like corporate espionage, but now I'm like, man, that sounds like a lucrative career. I could be the James Bond of the corporate world.
I know,
Sign me
exactly.
up to plant your
Exactly.
plants.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, no, I definitely agree. You know that I love I think you said the knowledge highway analogy. That's just fascinating because
Mm,
it's like it's
mm.
right there for everybody. We've
Yeah.
all seen different signs. It just depends on much attention you're going to how much you're paying attention to these things.
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh,
Ryan, and she's
Rowan,
talking about, what did she just say?
Kodak and
Kodak and
Blockbuster.
Blockbusters.
Ooh,
Kodak
man,
and yeah.
Kodak had everybody, a Kodak moment. That was like a household thing to say.
That's
I can still refer to it as
we studied
Kodak
them
moment.
in grad school, and we studied the demise and their hubris, their lack of adapting to the digital age, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that they were primed. They had money. They were a cash cow. They could have done anything that they wanted to. They could have pivoted and not blinked an eye, but they didn't do it, man. Oh, that's such a great example. Such a great example.
Man, for real, man. Oh, we got to shout out the chat right now. Talia Gray said, "You have
Yeah.
to change before it's necessary." Steve Worthy, man, that's a quote right there itself. Kenneth came in sharing great points and change before one has to. Yes, yes. People loving it. People loving it. You could tell just like you good at what you do, man. You good at what you do. I feel ready to level up my own uh just being in a better position. I feel like part of it's like a mindset thing, right? Especially when
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
feeling like you're doing good. Like Intel and the top dog. I feel like people know the company without even knowing what it does. They've had commercials. I'm sure they've done like stuff with NFL, NBA, all sorts of things. So it's like, in a sense, it's like, oh yeah, we're not the rush to this. We're Intel, but no, no,
Yeah.
it's just a few years, and now everyone knows Nvidia's name, and they're just at the. Actually, I honestly don't know how long they've been around, but I know that they're going to be around for a much longer because they're being a bit more innovative and truly leading.
Yeah,
Um,
and
mhm.
they're attracting the right people. I had you know, one of the things I've learned throughout my career is that you don't build a team, you attract a team, right? And I think
Okay.
when you're at a certain level within your company, your name goes before you, right? Your name goes before you. Best piece of advice that I ever got, as a leader when I was moving up the ranks was to um, develop and export great talent. They
Mm,
didn't talk about say make your numbers. They didn't say hit all your KPIs or anything like that. He said develop and export great talent, meaning like making sure that you have a pipeline, succession planning of great talent of people that you're able to develop and export them out to the company. So guess what
mm,
happens when you do that? Now there's a whole bunch of sort of little Steves sort of throughout the company. My name is gone before me throughout the company because I've been able to supply my peer in Philly with great talent, my peer in Texas with great talent, my peer in Wyoming with great talent, right? And so now my name is gone before me. Guess what? Now I'm able to attract even better talent because I have a solid reputation of being able to guess what? Develop and export great talent, right? And so I think instead of building a team, if you are doing the right things as a leader, understanding approachability. How do you making sure that you're taking care of your team, that you're not putting priorities over or task over your team, that you're not overthinking your decision making, all of those different aspects, right? People are attracted to surety, confidence, not cockiness, and when you're able to do that, you attract really solid people. So I think that's probably one of the other issues with Intel may have been their inability to attract really solid talent, right? Nvidia was sexy over here, right? They're the new thing in town. So guess who? If I'm a master coder, right? I'm not sure if I want to rock with Intel. I'm like, oh, Nvidia's hired. Yeah, let me go over there, right? So I think we have to start to think differently.
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. There's a question here,
Yeah,
with Kenneth, and actually, I feel like this question is actually like a whole other topic right here, and we might have to follow up with you on this. But Kenneth asks, why couldn't a company like Intel leverage their own chip technology to drive their strategy
yeah.
before releasing it to the broader market?
Yeah, 100%. I think part of it was when you think about your own chip technology, you have to think about like the capabilities of who's actually going to be using it. So there has to be a compatibility of like your ability to develop something that's robust, and then the other side of that is the market's ability. You okay? What
Yeah,
is that?
I thought the power went off.
Okay,
Yeah, we
no,
good. We
I
good.
got you.
I got these Intel lights. It's not. It's not.
No, no.
It's getting crazy, y'all.
You got those Intel lights. You,
I need to go shop
you
at
need to fire.
Nvidia.
You need to fire those lights, man.
I'm fired
You need to
that
you need to fire
salesperson
those
who.
lights and get some
Yeah,
Nvidia
man.
lights,
That's okay. Here's my Nvidia light. We swap. We switching up. Yeah.
right? So you you can develop your technology, but you have to have a market that's actually going to be able to accept it. And so I think part of that is how maybe their inability to actually provide what the market desired, right? I'm spitballing here, Kenneth, but these are just some of my own thoughts when I think about
Hmm.
a company and their ability to do that. The other side of it is that while Nvidia is always they're known, of course, for their language modeling and things along that line. They have other arms of the business that are probably making them way more money than that AI side of the business, right? And I was literally just talking to somebody about this principle, the Pareto principle yesterday, the 80-20 rule, right? Where 20% of what you do, gives you 80% of your return. And so when you start to think about any one of these organizations, NVIDIA or Intel was probably looking at the 80% of their capacity, their chip making prowess. But then they were trying to serve 20% of the market, right? Or trying to fit that 80% into 20%. Where NVIDIA is probably thinking about it, well, I got 20% of something I do really well. And guess what? That's going to give me 80% of my return. Instead of becoming a generalist, you have to become a meaningful specificity as there's an old sales guy, Zig Ziglar used to always say. So
Hmm.
don't become a wandering generality. You have to be a meaningful specific. So I think those
Oh,
are some of the things. Yeah.
a meaningful specific. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. All right. Becoming a meaningful specific. I feel like that's a great segue on to our kind of next topic, right? So we kind
Mhm.
of talked about these two headlines, right? And like what these leaders can do. And now I really want to dig into like the becoming the next leader, kind of stepping
Mhm.
up during these moments, right? And you know what? Stephanie actually said something early on,
What's she
right?
say?
It's when you were talking about making a move. She said, I'm in my make a move season
Oh
two. She
yeah.
said she bought a jumbo wall calendar. It's laminated. She's serious, folks. She's serious. And that's what you should be. You should be serious about this move, right? It's the end of the year, beginning of the new year. It's time, y'all. We've all been thinking about where we are and where we want to go. And you're someone who literally spends your days and nights helping people to do that, right? You have this really dope community
Yeah.
called the campus. I want to dive into that a little bit, but also just want to give everyone some tips, right? By the way, before we dive into the campus, it's a thing you founded. It's a destination for professional growth and development, resources tailored specifically for experienced leaders. I'm sharing it because I'm in it, yo. I'm in this community, and he drops all sorts of gems and content. There's these people he's just found who are leaders in this area. I'm like, yo, I'm trying to take notes as I go, the little minutes and moments that I have, and just save them for later as I'm just on my own journey of growth too. I want to circle back to this in a second, but just in general, right now, right? There are a lot of people looking at their own moves that
Mm,
they want to make, right?
mhm.
You already gave us like one kind of mindset thing, right? Be what would you call it? A specific what?
I
Be a
mean,
be
meaningful, specific.
a
Yeah.
meaningful specific. I like that one. I like that one. But what are some practical ways that we could all just stay ready for leadership opportunities, even if no immediate positions are available?
Yeah, I think I think part of staying ready for different opportunities, there has to be a measure of courage that you have to have. And what I mean by that is that opportunities don't necessarily present themselves when you're ready and when everything is perfect. And they typically present themselves. I mean, I hate to go back to the United Healthcare, right?
Hmm.
His situation has created, guess what, an opportunity for somebody that wasn't really expecting it, right? They didn't think, this year or next year or early next year that they were going to probably be CEO. Right. And so I think we have to make sure that we have to have some courage when those opportunities present themselves in order for us to step up. And part of that is having a really good understanding of your value, your valued opinion, like the value that you have about yourself, the value that your valued opinion that you have about yourself, your team, and your company. So when I talk about this, I often talk about it in the context with leaders that when you are when you're known for something, right? Yeah, at a certain
Hmm.
point in your leadership, journey, there's a difference between what you know and then what you're known for, right? A lot of times we have the majority of people who are so concerned with what they know. They're so concerned with what they know, and I get it. I was the same way. But as you start to think about different opportunities potentially coming up, it's more about what you're known for. Are you top of mind with people? What's your level of relationship like with not just your boss, but your boss's boss? Laterally, right? With people in other markets, with people in other areas of cross-functionally. What do those relationships look like? Right? And I think we don't do it. What happens is that this is the time of year or performance review time of year. Everybody and their mama starts to want to connect and they want to start to develop these relationships. And then people can see it. People are smart. They can see it. They can see,
Mm.
okay, well, all right, you're just trying to develop this relationship with me because you want this opportunity, right? That's great. But I already know Kenneth, right? I already know what Kenneth's qualities are. So when that next opportunity comes, guess what? I'm going to probably end up calling Kenneth. So you have to have courage, but you also have to make sure that you understand your valued opinion of yourself, your team, and your organization, and where you stand within that organization at all times. You have to be able to do that.
Mm. Cannot be thirsty,
No.
man.
Mm.
Um, Man, that's interesting. Yeah, that that really speaks to. I feel like authors were kind of put in this position where, especially when considering making a move, right, where it's like needs something to happen instantly because we didn't prepare, and then we're
Yeah.
just moving kind of sporadically in this thirsty ways, and it's kind of obvious, right? So, like, let me ask you this. And after this, we have a question from the chat. How long should someone take to prepare? Like, if they're thinking, I feel like
Mm.
we have this moment. It's usually like a breaking moment or just well, I don't want to say usually. Sometimes when we're making these rash decisions coming from a breaking moment, like I've sacrificed for years. I get passed up all the times. It's like, man, I'm done. I'm tired of this. And I almost feel like by then it's a little too late. So how long should you prepare for your next move?
Mm. Um, I think I had a young lady that I was I was coaching, and I think part of my process is to help people get there, but there has to be ownership. So you have to own, like you have to own the conversation, you have to own the decisions and the journey. And as we were talking, you know, I see I want to be HR director. I want to be HR director. I want to be HR director. And I I knew she wasn't going to be HR director because she doesn't like people. Right. Right. So
Yeah.
over a period of time, I'm pretty blunt with my clients in a really good, in a really positive way. They really appreciate it. But as we were going through the journey, what we realized was that she wanted to be HR director because she saw her peer do it. Her peer who was doing, they had grown up together in the company and they were moving up together. Next role, you know, she got it, then she got it, then she got it, then she got it. So it was, if she felt like it was just like the natural next move for her, right? And that it was, we were sort of decoding like who she is and what she stands for and really her value system. She realized that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go into
Mm,
operations. And I literally told her, I said, I knew that, like, because, like people, and we were just having it. She chuckled. And she's like, how come you just didn't tell me that? I said, you had to own it. You had to own it.
mm,
You had to own it. And she did. And she ended up moving to this amazing operations role, big company and things like that. And so when I think about, the time that people have to prepare, part of that preparation process is really understanding what you really want. I think need to spend more time in understanding who you really are and what it is that you really want, because the opportunities can present themselves and it may not be the right one for you. It's just opportunity for opportunity's sake, and I get it. It could be money. I've been there, done it. I've chased money. I've taken on opportunities that was just like, ooh, they flashed the money, and I got there. And I think my shortest stint at a company was 6 months. um
mm,
I couldn't stand it, and the money was good, but then I got there, the culture just wasn't right. So we've all done it. We've all done it. I think part of it is like, how do you prepare yourself and understanding who you are and what your values are? And I know that sounds very, kind of pie in the sky, right? Rose-colored glasses type of deal. But it is really it's the reality that we're in, because you can easily go get a job somewhere that you just hate, um and the culture's horrible, and then you're miserable. But start spending more and more time thinking about what it is that you really want, and really is that who you are. You got to break the veneer of um living up to the expectations of other people around you, right? And where you think, and where they think that you should be, and where you also think that you should be, because maybe you're not ready for that next opportunity. So,
mm. Maybe you're not ready. Now that's a tough one right there. I feel like that's part of the whole preparation thing is that self-awareness, right? I know there was a moment when you were kind of reminded me of this in regards to short stints and everything. I think my shortest stint, well, my shortest stint was at an insurance company, and that's because I realized that this was not a company looking to provide benefits and wellness to people. It was a pyramid scheme. So that was I
mm,
escaped that one, but my
mm,
actual real shortest stint was in this organization, and I was brought on to help them with the transition. It was in e-commerce. They had a huge project of moving over from one platform over to another while just keeping sales going and everything. And it was something I've done before with other companies, but this environment was a little bit different and called for something a little greater that I just didn't feel like I was the right person to
mm,
lead this.
mm, mm.
And also, they were diving deep into a lot of technical terminology. I had no idea what they were talking about. So I was like,
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah, yeah.
I appreciate this opportunity. I think y'all need somebody else. And they weren't happy, but I'm sure they're happier. Well, I hope they're happier now because they would not have been happy with me. Um, so I want to go back to the chat, right? And this is kind of more on the conversation of what a leader should be, right? And I think this is good to know, especially when coming up, because I had a conversation recently with somebody who actually got an opportunity to be in a leadership position, and they now have to deal with, they're leading a team.
Yeah.
and some of those people were going for that same leadership position that they got. So there's
Oh,
gonna be a lot of different feelings there. Some people will be like, "Hey, it is what it is. Appreciate you being there." Other people are like, "Man, I should have had that. That was mine. I
yeah,
deserve that." Right.
yeah.
So the question actually is Stephanie Cole. She shares she's had debates about the following statement regarding leadership. Is it better to be liked or feared?
Ooh, uh, you know, oh, that's a here. So Stephanie, that's a very common. I hear that one often, and I would say neither,
Oh,
and I would say neither, right? One, leadership is not about being liked. It's not about being liked, and it's also not about making people afraid of you, right? And leadership, one of the cores, everybody talks about leadership as influence. I always think about in the ideas is that leaders' first responsibility is to define reality, right? They define reality for themselves first, and then for the situation and those around them, right? And
mm,
that right there is very tough to do because yeah, you're not gonna get like you're not gonna be liked when you were defining the hardcore reality of the situation. And right, people are going to fear you because you're actually speaking sort of because you're speaking the truth and you're talking about what the actual reality is in the situation. Like not thinking about any sort of um outside influence or anything. This is the reality. This is where we are. And when you're able to do that as a leader, um, over time you gain more respect. You gain more um uh people following you and connecting with you and you attract more people because they know what you stand for. I've dealt with both leaders. I've dealt with leaders who I used to be, I actually used to be both leaders. I used to be a leader that really wanted to be liked. I started off being a leader that wanted to be feared. Right. I think what I know what probably remembers the story. When I first left New York and I was moving to Charlotte, and
mm,
I was working for a company, and I was probably about 3 years removed from the military, and so I had a very like command and control mindset, and I was leading the team and we were getting results, but we were getting results because they were afraid of me. And I remember my good friend Victor. I talk about him in the upcoming book, and he pulled me. He says, "He's a worthy. You mind we go to lunch?" Yeah, let's go to lunch. And he was a fellow New Yorker, and he then moved down to Charlotte, and he'd been down there for like 6, 7 years. And he literally said to me, we sat down. As soon as we sat down, I didn't even get a chance to eat. He said, "Worthy, that stuff don't work down here." He used a 4-letter word that begins with S, and he said it again, that don't work down here. Said, you have to learn how to connect with your people. I said, for what? Said, for what? What do you mean connect? Like I have the position. I was a quintessential positional leader. And over time, he said, you got to figure out, you got to ask him about the weekend, you got to do all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna cut off the story to make the point that I used to be that leader that led for fear's sake, and I was the likable, and I made the massive shift to wanted to be liked, and then I got to the point where I was like, you know what, none of those work. I just have
mm.
to be me, and I have to define the reality of the situation and then keep it moving. So I think, I appreciate the question, but I think it's almost a red herring, and so we have to think about the reality of the leader, in their role.
Man, you out here having people doing push-ups when they weren't meeting their goals. Like, that's what you got. That's all you got, soldier.
Exactly.
Man, yo, shout out to all of you New Yorkers. Man, I always feel like y'all have like a different level of like a different type of confidence. It's like y'all in this whole other world. Like I don't know how y'all's outlook is, but y'all are different, man. I can see that being an odd shift coming down to the South, where it's like, what you talking about? New Yorker and military, man. No, I appreciate that. I thought you had a lot of quotables in that too. I think the one that I love the most, and also it's been quoted several times in the chat, is leadership responsibility. is to first define reality. Also, just in other news, Steve, I think if you ever wanted to, dive into like motivational rap, maybe like some corporate rap or something, you got bars, man.
No,
I
no.
feel like there was
I
almost a rhyme there. It's almost a rhyme there. It's like
Listen
kind of
to me,
flows together.
man. I miss that. I miss that. I miss that rap. I was never trying. I never wanted to be an MC. I wanted to be a DJ. I miss that.
Mm,
You see my you know, our our office in the back, the picture in the back is the two turntables. We get a lot of people asking us about it. Never like share or we're on calls. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, were you a DJ?" I was like, "No, I miss my calling." My brother was the DJ. I was the person that carried the records and got into all those
hey,
parties at as a 15, 16-year-old that I shouldn't have been in. But that's what happens, when you're carrying all the records.
man, if
Great
y'all think
carrier.
Steve should like just start picking up the turntables, put Go DJ in the chat, man. I feel like that story right there. You already got the story. Anyways, we're going to dive into a whole other thing. Because man, all right. Yeah, next year we're gonna see Steve pulling a Shaq move and like switching up and just start DJing at a concert. The next
I don't know.
retail leadership event, we're gonna have Steve
I don't know
MC.
about that one.
Man, all right. So you mentioned a few things, just kind of subtly, real smooth with it, right? We've already talked about the campus a little bit. We're going to dive deeper into
Mhm.
that. But you also mentioned
Mm.
a book, el libro. What is this book?
Well, man, so man, I am my own worst enemy. I am, man. Here's the thing. This is, most coaches, even my coach, Coach Perry, we talk about this, right? You know how it goes. When we give advice and we can do this thing, he coined the phrase a coach sultan. And I love that phrase. I love the phrase. So we're not just a coach and we're not a consultant. So we're like it's a coach sultan. And
Mm,
I love that because part of our process is helping people figure things out, but the other part is like being very direct and helping them get there, right?
mm-hmm,
And so part of my issue is that I had one book idea probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I'm still going to do it. And it's called The Approachable Leader. But what I started to see as my coaching business started to grow, I started to see more and more leaders that were taking on so many different tasks and they were doing too much. And so the name of
mm,
the book is called You're Doing Too Much. Why doing less is the key to retail leader success. And part of that process is that there are certain things that you need to stop doing. I call them traps. And then there are certain things that you need to start doing. And part of the things that you need to stop doing is, just to kind of, sort of unveil a couple of different things here is like, prioritizing, tasks or projects over people, micromanaging people, avoiding tough conversations, overthinking the decisions, right? Saying yes to everything. We have so many leaders that are out there that are yes people. How do you how do you stop doing that? We go into detail with all of this, and this one actually will probably hit home is to stop sticking with the plan with a rigid plan, right? So
mm,
this speaks to intel. It speaks
yeah.
to the rigid nature of a lot of leaders is that I have to stick to this plan in order for me to be successful because a lot of times we are defined we define ourselves by that plan, right? We define ourselves by the outcome of that plan. And then the last part of things to stop doing is to stop spending time alone. Stop spending time alone. We have so many leaders who at a certain level they spend a lot of time alone, and what I mean by that, they spend a lot of time alone mentally, right?
Hmm,
We see a lot of leaders who surround themselves with people, and a lot of those people in those situations are very superficial. And so while they may seem outgoing, while they may seem connected with a lot of people, mentally they're still alone, right? And so how do we help leaders to stop spending mental time alone and connecting with people at a different level whether it's connecting with a coach. And I always just say coach. I pretty much stopped there because I think having a coach right nowadays is it's not a luxury anymore, it's a necessity. And so
Mm.
how do you stop spending mental time alone? Those are the things that we talk about. I talk about in the book that leaders need to stop doing.
Yeah. So did I hear that right? You said coaching is no longer a luxury; it's a necessity.
100%. 100%. 100%. I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate because I know you talk one of the questions you want me to talk about is the community. So I'm going to sort of answer this one of these up front. I was very fortunate to grow up at a certain age, right? When I started going into different leadership roles of having amazing mentors. I don't know, very fortunate that I was able to attract leaders of high caliber to me that wanted to invest and saw something in me that I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily see in myself. And so I understood throughout my career the importance of coaching and mentoring and what it could actually do for you in your career. And so one of the things that I want to make sure people understand is that it's nowadays you can't afford not to have a coach. You just can't.
Mm. Man, I feel that actually. I feel that. I just think I grew up playing in soccer and got a chance to play in college as well, and just that idea of a coach, right? It can mean so many different things, but to have somebody who's kind of with you and just putting you in. Well, I mean, in sports, there is different kind of putting in different game positions to win, but really, it's like in that practice. That's what I'm thinking about it. That practice day in day out, giving you plays and kind of like, okay, you did that.
Mhm.
But let's go about it differently. So I love that. That's
Was
interesting. I never
well, my
thought about it
coach.
that way.
Well, my coach, he broke it down. He broke it down at its brass tacks. So the word coach, right? It's a, if I'm not mistaken, it's the origin of it is English, and it's talks about a coach, a carrier that you put people inside and you move people from here to there. That's what it does, right? That's
Mhm.
so just think about a coach. That's 100% what we do, right? And I know there's people want to think about all these different things around it. No, we're a coach. We put people inside of a framework, a mindset, ideas, and then we help them, and we move them to their best next, right?
Mm.
The issue is that what happens is that people are people need to figure out what that best next is, right? Everybody wants to move, but they don't know what they want to move to, right?
Mm.
Everybody wants a new opportunity, but they don't know they can't define what that new opportunity is. And so as a coach, part of that process is helping them slow the ball down, getting clarity, on I keep saying this all the time on who they are. We talk about it in one of the areas that we talk about things to do is around approachability, and we talk about it in our smile framework. And part of that smile framework is the S. The S stands for self-awareness. So with self-awareness, it's not about your strengths and opportunities and different things like that. It's not about that. We don't talk about it in that context. We talk about your why, right? Why do you do the things you do? Why do you communicate the way that you communicate? Why do you get upset when Tim walks into a room?
Mm.
Then why do you respond? And the second part of the self awareness is your response. Well, why do you respond to Tim in that way when Tiffany said the same exact thing, right? How what so it's self awareness in around those situations, and so I think part of our process is making sure that we help people understand like where they are so that they can move to their best next.
Man, I love that. I love that. And also, everyone in the chat right now, I love y'all. Y'all coming in with some good questions as well. And I'm thinking like, okay, you know what? We getting closer about that time, right? But these are some really good questions. So
Yeah, go for it.
here's what I want to do, Steve. I want to actually
Yeah,
pivot real quick to talk about the campus really quick. Um, just a reminder what this is because I just love this community that you've built, right?
yeah.
Um, and Then we're gonna do like a whole kind of rapid fire. I'm gonna throw a question out to you. You just kind of answer back. We're gonna put Steve in the hot seat. We're gonna do this one because I already know Steve is ready. We're talking about preparation, right? Steve's prepared. I've seen him in action, man. I'll never forget this one live stream. I think he was doing it with I know James Hicks was there. I don't know if it was his or maybe it was JP Hightech. It was somebody, but there was a live stream and Steve was on there just going like boom, 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 hitting point at the point at the point. So man, I'm excited for that. I might throw some of my own questions in there too, disguise it as y'all's, but I'm gonna make sure y'all get your questions asked. So the campus, right?
Yeah,
Um, let's just start it. What is this? Why would anyone want to join this?
that's a great question, man. So and how can I want to tell you, how it came to be, the idea, where the concept came from, and it came from GE, right? General Electric. So General Electric had this campus. It's called Crotonville, and it's probably about an hour north, maybe an hour, 2 hours north of New York City. So when I was in college, I had a professor who actually used to work for GE, and GE had this campus where they would bring in some of their best leaders, in the world, right? Different business units and all this, and they did it, monthly. I'm not particularly sure what their schedule is like now, but then what they would do was that they would bring in some of the top leaders and top experts, um, organizational theories, and all these different new ideas, instructors, professors, and they would bring them in and they would educate all of their leaders, all of those business unit leaders, on new innovative ideas that weren't even out in the marketplace yet. People weren't even talking about these things yet. And these people will be loaded for bear. They would have all this new rich information. They didn't have to use all of it. They can take some bits and pieces of it and apply it to their lives as a leader. I was fortunate enough, to be able to, when I was an undergrad, to be able to sit in on, for a day, at Crotonville, because my professor was able to got us in, and it changed my whole perspective on leadership, on my ability to uh, reach out to people in other disciplines outside of retail and learn from them. And so the campus takes on that same mindset. Our goal, it's not the normal community. Everybody and their mom is not posting. There's not, it's not about that. It is really about getting the information, taking what we have, asking questions, right? You creating a dialogue, but taking that information and then taking it back into the marketplace, taking it back
Mhm.
into your own leadership first. I often talk about, the campus is sort of that rule. It's okay for you to be selfish in the campus because it's about you. It's that, the old adage or the old phrase, when you get on the airplane, the stewardess says, put the mask on yourself first before you put it on other people. I 100% believe that in retail, right? We want to share so much, but you can't share something that you don't have yourself. So the campus is that place for you to come. The difference is that the leaders that are in there are already doing the work, right? It's
Mhm.
not a matter of like people being convinced that they have to join a membership community or anything like that. These leaders are already doing the work, right? They're already smart. They just want to get smarter. They're already achieving, but they want to achieve more, right? They already have great communication skills, but they want to learn how to communicate better and differently. And so that's why we created the community. So for those leaders to actually have that place to come in and get rich information, be a little selfish, and then go out and then take that, everything that they learn, back into the marketplace.
I love that. It's like, yo, come in here, get this information. You could be selfish. Go take this back to your own lives and, level up a bit. And, there's something you said that just really speaks to this one line here, cut through the noise and navigate this
Yeah,
journey together. I feel like
yeah,
that just speaks to what you mentioned before about leaders being lonely, kind of mentally just in their own world or surrounded by, or not, maybe not, just not surrounded by people who are there for growth in the next level, just everyone coming together to share and get to it, right? This is
yeah,
not a expert, think leader, powerful people. I mean, a lot of these people are kind of thought leaders and everything, but it's more so all around that accountability, that peer-to-peer learning. I like that. I like
yeah.
that a lot, man. Yo, make sure you check it out. Worthyretailcampus.com. WORTHY retail. That's RETAIL campus.com. I was reading out as the ticker was going by, and I was like, okay, let me spell this out before the thing goes, but it's coming right back around. All right, y'all. We're it's about that time, that hot seat
Where is it at?
power hour. Questions,
Um, uh,
questions. Steve, man, people got questions for you, man.
let's go.
People got
Let's go.
questions for you,
Let's go,
and
man.
hope you got answers. First one is from Joey Navarro. Do you have advice for leaders who want to challenge the status quo while maintaining positive relationships with longer tenured employees who are invested in the existing culture and processes?
Read it one more time. Read it
Do you
one
have
more
advice
time.
for leaders who are trying to challenge the status quo while maintaining positive relationships? Like they want to challenge the kind of current standard. They want to kind of buck the system, but we want to make sure everyone's still at peace and in a positive relationship with everybody.
Yeah, I think the major part of that is that we see a lot of people who want to challenge the status quo, but then they don't have the credibility to do it first, right? And so part of that process of challenging the status quo is, what is your level of credibility first and foremost within the organization, right? Because leaders will listen to people that they feel are credible, just
Mm,
plain and simple. I'm just gonna be brutally honest. I can care less what kind of really great ideas that you have. A lot of times, if you're not credible, no one's gonna really listen to you. Um, you're right. It is literally, sort of the process, the part of you wanting to make the changes, that you have to present yourself as credible. And part of that is the consistency in who you are. We talked about it earlier. Having a valued opinion of yourself, your team, and your organization. I'll give you a great example. Great example. I wanted to change and figure out the status quo, change the status quo when I was at a company. I would get people that would visit my store, and just I was fresh in retail, and I would crush my visits, crush them. Man, I was crushing everything, and and they would leave my store. They'd be like, "Great, great store." And they would go to my peer store. They'd spend 5, 6 hours at his store. And I'm like, why are they at his store for so long? What are they doing over there? Right. And so let's just call him Joe. I think after 2 times I went over there, I said, okay, why are they here? I said, walk me through what you do. He walked them through so many different aspects of the business, right? Where corporate was dropping the ball on this category. We could have had
mm,
more assortment of this. Check out our front lanes right now. This is the payroll that we actually have to work with. If we had more payroll, then we could have done da 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 da, all these different things. They would spend time with him to learn about some of the gaps that were existing, in the field. And then they would take it back, and guess what? They would invoke change based off of Joe's feedback and suggestions. So when we start talking about changing the status quo, I think a large part of that is, what are we known for? What's the level of credibility that we currently have within the organization? And if we're able to kind of understand those things and build those up consistently, you have to be consistent in who you are and what you stand for. Don't go to bat for this day, and then turn around on Tuesday, you're going back for something completely different, right?
mm.
You're wishy-washy, right? No one wants to deal with somebody that's wishy-washy. I want to know what you stand for. I don't know if
Man.
that answers your question or not, Joey.
Yeah, Joey, let us know if it did. It was a good answer. It was a good answer. I told you he's ready to be put in the spotlight. He's prepared. All right. Next question, Mr. A. Lee Judge, Steve. What is your advice for people who could be coaches looking for coaches themselves?
Yeah, that's a great one. That's great. You know, um, part of the reason my relationship works with my coach is that, um I learned a long time ago is that I don't know everything. I don't know everything.
Mm.
You know, I'm a sponge. I'm a sponge, and I think the best coaches are sponges, right? And you have to be able to realize in your coaching practice, like what are some of the gaps and things that that need to be filled. My coach, so I'm very outgoing, right? When I and expressive, um, as you can tell, uh, even in my coaching sessions, and so and part of that is just my natural personality. My coach is the exact opposite. Coach Perry is very considered, right? He's very, methodical. I'm methodical, but I'm very quick with my with being methodical. I'm very quick. I can get to somewhere very quick. He's very methodical in who he is, and so he's able to bring out something different inside of me. So I think as a coach, looking for a coach, you have to be able to understand where your current gaps are and what you need and what you're really looking for in a coach. You don't want I honestly I don't know if I can deal with a coach that's like me, you know. While I may have a lot of wisdom and knowledge and I'm super high energy and I want to get you there, right? Action beats intention, right? That whole mindset. I don't know if I can have a coach like me. My coach is perfect. He completes me. There you go,
Mm.
Coach Perry. I think I'll throw that out there.
Yo, shout out to Coach Perry, man.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Next question. Next question from Harlem's very own Stephanie Cole.
Oh yeah.
Now, this is an interesting one. I think
What
there's
you
a
got?
couple different ways you could take this question, right? She asks, "What does a leader look for in a second in command who will ensure the leader's visible and invisible success?"
That's a good one. I think it almost goes back to a little bit of what I talked about when, like when you look for a coach, right? So when I was first in leadership, I hired a whole bunch of little Steves,
Mm,
right? Very, vision oriented, big picture, when I was young, very charismatic. Um, when we walked into a room, right, everybody sort of knew, right? And you know, that didn't bode well, right? Because a lot of things didn't get done because we were so busy casting vision, we didn't have people in place to actually execute on that. And so I think part of having a second in command has to do first and foremost with, once again, you being vulnerable um with your shortcomings first and foremost. So
mm,
I was very fortunate and throughout my career to have like an HR like director like sidekick with me. Every role that you go up in retail that you have a HR equivalent,
mm,
and and you work your markets, your areas, all of that stuff together, and so thank God I always had an HR that was very cerebral. Um, while was very big picture, they would hold up for sexting. We got to do step 1 or 2 before we get to 3. Um, and I accepted that because I knew my vulnerability and I knew that um, I couldn't get there without this person helping me provide some insights as well. So I think part of that is, you understanding yourself first and foremost. The second part is that when you do find that person, they have to be able to challenge you, right? They have to be able to challenge you, your ideas, your assumptions. Um, your way of thinking, right? But it's all for the betterment of the team and the direction that you want to go. So they have to be able to challenge you. They have to have their own ideas too, right? They have to be able to bring their own ideas to the plate. Um, if they want to move up the ladder, their time will come, but they understand how to and they can appreciate the role that they currently play. Right. So I think those two for me, I always looked at first myself, my level of vulnerability in my areas and my gaps, and then 2, making sure that that person had could challenge me and then also bring new ideas to the table.
Mm. I like that. That was interesting, right? Because you would think like, oh yeah, this person thinks similar with me. We'll work well together, and y'all do work well together. But then you find out that nothing gets done. That's great. That's interesting.
Mm,
That's
mhm,
interesting,
mhm.
man. All right, Steve. Um, Congratulations, you survived the spotlight challenge. You did well. You did good.
Thank you,
I
thank
like
you.
everything you shared. But now I guess the most important question actually. This is the big one, right? I'm very big on like this whole idea of self-made, right? It sounds really cool. I would love to say one day, yeah, self-made, but it's not true. It's not true
No,
at all.
no.
Everything's kind of community made. Matter of fact, I have a prototype of a shirt, community made. Coming soon, coming
Oh,
soon.
well, where's
But
mine? Where's my shirt at, man? Come on now.
well, it depends on how you answer this question,
Yeah.
how much praise you give to me or not. The question is, how has community shown up for you in your life?
Oh, wow. Man, um, you know, uh, wow.
You could
You
say
know,
Walter has been amazing,
no,
and
I am literally trying not to get emotional. Um, and this is not for effect. You know, um, gosh, so few years ago, when I started, deep into this journey of, I was doing two things, right? You know what? I was doing Worthy, and then I was also doing Podcasters Live and different things like that. Um, and I was just doing live streams. It had to be like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. But even before that, I was doing and developing different things. Um, I think you and I met in COVID, maybe
Mhm.
2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, was going through a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. And no one could really tell. But I remember I did this one live stream, and I got off the live stream, and um, Sylvia and Andrew Nix, you remember them? Remember
Yeah.
them, right?
Yes.
They
Precious snow.
yeah, yeah. They immediately like called me, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I literally just start breaking, like start crying. And it's the reason I'm sharing this is because, you know, your community knows you. They're there for you. Um, they respect you. And whatever it is that you're going through, good, bad, or indifferent. And yeah, no, my community has helped shape me, man. I often feel like my adult community is very similar to, like, my community when I was a kid, right? I'm, well older than you, Walter, but I remember, as a kid growing up, everybody knew me as, you're Joe Worthy's son, right? You're Paula Worthy's son, right? And you couldn't do anything down the street, you know, um, and then you get in trouble, and your community always looked out for you, right? As a kid, they wouldn't let you do anything crazy. And I think as an adult, I feel the same way about my community. It's that safety area that I can really be myself, um, even outside of all of the professional things that I do. I can truly, quote unquote, let my hair down in my community.
Mm. Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It is really interesting, right? When this someone could like see, like the general public has no idea what's going on, but
No.
that one person just does that extra step, because sometimes people do notice something, but they just won't say nothing. But it's a great feeling when someone really just genuinely reaches out and be like, "How you doing? How you
Yeah.
doing for real?"
Yeah, dude.
That's beautiful.
That one crushed me, man. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And next thing I know, it was waterworks, man. So,
Man, shout out to the community. And
yeah.
also, before we leave, just want to let you know that there's a community there for your rap DJ career if you do choose to make a pivot.
Who said that?
Stephanie Cole, shout out to Stephanie Cole. She said, "Let's take the show on a roll. Steve Walt will be the I'll be the DJ." Oh, she said she's gonna book the gigs. Um, Ailey Judd says, "Shout out to the crate carriers. They're the real ones."
Yeah.
Man, yeah. So that just let us know when you're ready. But in the meantime,
No skills.
where can everyone connect with you and get some more of these gems that you've been dropping all year?
Yeah. Well, I know we're on LinkedIn, so everybody could definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. But if you want to, um, you know, step on campus, right? We have a free membership, and there's enough information and resources there from a free standpoint that can get you started. But of course, the paid membership, it gets you way more access. And we actually have, and Walt's been a part of it, and several other members. We have our own podcast. It's called The Campus Voice, and on in that podcast, the members ask me 3 questions about their career, leadership, or whatever it is, and then I answer. It's pretty much an hour coaching, for that leader. But
Mhm.
what we do with that those questions is that we break it up into 3 smaller, like, sort of podcasts, um, because those even that those the single question can go 10-15 minutes, because there's back and forth between me and that person, and then we break those out into separate podcasts, and it just provides another layer of resource, because a lot of the questions that people are asking, um the people in the community are thinking about. And so it's just a way for us to go deeper. And I always think about, like, Sharon and I talk about going, like, 8 clicks deep, on things, right? So how do we go, like, 8 clicks deep on the information, and making sure we're providing giving the people what they're asking for.
Mm,
Provocative. It's provocative. It gets
keeps
the
the
people
people going.
going.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for creating that. And also thank you all of y'all for joining in on this. Make
Yeah,
sure
shout
you
out.
check out what Steve's doing. Both on LinkedIn, but also in the campus. A lot of something special going on in that community. And also yeah, just thank everyone for joining in, right? Because
Yeah,
I gotta have these
appreciate you.
conversations by myself off the screen. We do already, but the reason why we do this is really just to share, right? It's all about community. I like to think of myself as a student of life who's just learning and taking it back to the community. So, if you're liking this, if you're feeling this, definitely check out Steve. And then also, y'all, I mentioned at the beginning of this 2025, I'm really
Mm,
just calling it the theme. Every year I set a theme, right? And I think the theme for 2025, something my dad said to me recently, is like all in, just going all in.
yeah,
And I just feel like just this whole entire just creative journey, but also just journey in my own career and the things I've navigated. It's like it's all the practice and the strategies and the preparation, but it's like, okay, let's actually do something for real, right?
yeah.
Let's do something for real. So,
Hey,
for
hey,
one,
Walt, can I
mhm,
invite people to something real quick too? Oh, where is it? I'll make sure I put it in the comments. So we do, and it's free. We did the other day, we did a year-end reset, right? Well, I was
mhm.
talking about it earlier, where people, coming in, and so we have a like a whole reset guide where it's helping you walk through some wins, identify habits, and all these other things, and then sort of come up with a plan. We even talk about you know creating and identifying your word for the year, which is something that a lot of people haven't really done. But we are doing another one on January 4th. I will put a link in the
Ooh,
yeah. So
y'all
it's like
didn't
right,
miss out. You were
yeah,
talking about this year reset before. I know I missed it. Man, but there's another one.
yeah. So and so yeah, we're gonna do another one, because it's and I wanted to do it. Yeah, it's January 4th, so people can come. They can come. It's on a Saturday, and it's free. It's on the campus, and I'll make sure I put a link in the comments so that everybody can go and sign up for that.
Okay, okay. So So you mentioned the year and reset earlier on. You just mentioned there again. But for people who are just joining in this live now, shout out to everyone on the replay gang, by the way. Don't forget to comment and just ask questions as well. If Steve doesn't see it, I'll see it. I will personally bug him and sacrifice my relationship, annoy him, and to get the answer so I can bring it back to you. Also shout out to Lloyd George who just popped in. Um, so this thing on January 4th, right? Who was this for? I think you shared a little bit about like what type of stuff the conversations that are happening, but who needs to be at this event? I know I'm gonna go because I need it, but at what like moment do you need to be in? What place do you need to be in to really take the most advantage of this event?
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a senior vice president or a store manager, or you're just sort of starting your career from a out of college. Everybody needs a reset. Everybody needs a reset. Everybody when you start your everybody talks about this new year, new me. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of this perspective of unbecoming, right? There are different things in your life that you have to sort of unbecome, that you have to peel away, right? As you continue to grow, right? You think about, any type of plant, and it's pushing through, right? It's it's not so much about its newness, it's about what it's pushing through that's actually making its presence known. And so I think part of this reset is thinking about the things that you have to unbecome, that you have to shed, and we all have the things that we have to shed. There's things that we have to lean into. So if you're ready to really be vulnerable and challenge yourself to put those things out on the table that you sort of have to unbecome and forget about in order for you to move forward, this is the session for you. If you want to stay the same, then no come.
Mm, mm. If you're good where you are, you just want to coast, which is
Yeah,
cool, you know. Hey, that means you happy, you've got what you need. You just want to chill. Then hey,
yeah,
you
yeah,
maybe you can
no,
pop in, listen,
yeah, no,
cheerlead some people. But now, if you're ready for that action, if you're ready to make a move, which I love that name by the way, Steve, make a move. Then January 4th, you know where you need to be after you pop all the balloons, and I'm acting like I've never celebrated New Year's before. I'm
I
like,
know,
what do
right?
you do
I
on
know,
New
right?
Year's?
Yeah.
Man, I promise I have friends, y'all. After you do all that, make sure you strolling on over January 4th. We'll definitely be sharing more about that. Thank you, Steve. And we'll yeah, excited to share more about that too. And also maybe what we'll do actually as well is afterwards we could talk about do a whole reaction, like how it was and some of
Yeah,
my goals. I'll kind of
yeah,
do that publicly and love to have you back on for
yeah.
that.
Perfect, dude. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Let's do
All
it.
right. Now y'all, this was a really great conversation. I love this. I'm gonna take the recording and it'll be published on the podcast, the Working While Black Show. And clips will be shared throughout the weeks. But there's another episode that's out that I feel like pairs perfectly with this, right? This is the like the just from tactics to strategies to take advantage of getting ready for leadership. And a podcast episode I released recently, it's with someone named Chris Ward Jr. It's all around turning anxiety and that uncertainty into confidence. I feel like this conversation here pairs so well with that one. So
Mm,
wanted to share it with y'all. Um, it's out now on all the platforms, on the YouTubes, on the Apples and the Spotify's, everywhere. And basically, Chris is telling a story about how he actually worked his way up to a director level role before the company discovered he was in a position that, well, before he discovered he was in a position that he was no longer wanted by the company, and how to cope with that realization and a
mm,
decision that he made that actually surprises both his boss and his boss's boss. And he did that proactively, preemptively, before they were even able to make a ultimate decision and really set him up for greater success. So we'd love to y'all to check that out as well. The Working While Black Show is out now. And yeah, we're back, y'all. We're back. I've been playing around this year, experimenting with this, working on that, but truly focused. Shout out to the team and y'all, I would love to, if you're still watching, would love to hear y'all's goals. I'm gonna close this out, but still love for y'all to comment yours goals. I'm gonna go react and see just I think it's good to share, right? What Steve was talking about earlier about kind of being alone and kind of keeping things within. It's really good to speak things out loud and also share them with people so we could cheer you on. And also, you never know who knows who, especially if you're on LinkedIn watching
Mm,
this and commenting. Someone may be looking for their next leader, and that could be you. So yeah, appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.
peace.